Hey there, lovely people. It's been so long since we did one of these louder videos, and it's just really lovely to connect with you this way again. I want to get straight into it today. I'm actually going to put in a couple of clips into this video. So rather than this being just me being a straight talking head like this, it's actually based around 2 clips. So this is just like the intro part, and then there'll be a little outro part as well. But just to kind of say, there's a question that I have pretty much being asked every day by people as I walk about and in my emails and so on, which is, where are the teachers? Where are the teachers during this time? Now, if I say certain words here, this video is not going to survive. So let's talk about hair care, as I am a perfect person to talk about hair products and hair care. So I find a lot of people kind of inquiring about spiritual teachers' hair care routines at this time when it's such a hard time to take care of our hair in the world. You see what I'm saying? So if you would like to comment below, please comment about hair care, travel tips, and all that sort of thing. So that being said, why are so many, I'm not saying everyone, okay? So, you know, if your spiritual teacher isn't a goddamn coward and has lost their humanity about talking about hair care, then of course this doesn't include them. And you might be thinking, well, who is this guy to be, you know, saying this about these things? So you have to remember that there's no bypassing being a human being, and any spirituality that advocates that is just full of it, quite honestly. You know, we're not here to throw off our lives. We're here that the life should be a reflection of the illumination that is actually sort of throughout all things, but that we cut ourselves off from in the sin of missing the mark over and over again. Hence our hair is a terrible mess. And yours truly is, you know, the product of the colonial project across centuries. My father was an Indian Muslim, and in the time of the partition, I lost my grandma and 3 of my aunties to that time. We lost our ancestral land. I don't even know where it is, as it were, because all records are gone. My mother was a Northern Irish Catholic, another divided country. So obviously, you know, hair is really important in these scenarios. And of course, there's genetic memory about these things, racial memory. And to deny one's outwardness in the pretense of being spiritual, to deny one's humanity in the aspect of being spiritual, which is a false idea of spirituality to begin with. Well, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how you can let your hair be seen in public in this way. So what I want to do is I'm going to post a little video now by a wonderful woman called Sarah Bartozzi. I hope I've said that right, Sarah. Sarah's given me permission to share this. So this is not just lifted off TikTok or something and just thrown out here going, look at this. Everything is done with permission. And then I'm going to share with you, because we talked about this at length in my in our membership area, the open space, which is part of the Authentic Living website. It's a private members area called the Open Space, where I make monthly videos for them talking about things that we can't talk about out here normally, you know, because you come with the wrong kind of hair and, you know, people just don't like that. So I made this almost hour-long video for the open space the other day for the open space members, and there was a 10-15 minute chunk where we really got into this. So so I'm not talking about your teacher, okay? And if you have egoically attached to a teacher and they're leading you down the wrong path, well, that is your sort of karmic stuff to deal with, you know. I did that in the past. And it's all part of the movement towards realization. So awareness of, you know, hitching ourselves to these things is part of the growing up. I did that for 2 decades, actually. Well, a decade and a bit. I hitched my boat to completely the wrong wagon quite early in my life, and I kind of hint at it from time to time. Found myself in the middle of a cult. It took me years to get out and then to get deprogrammed from all that, and at some point we will talk about that. I've not been able to make a video for a long time because, as some of you know, we had a very significant bereavement in the family. Yours truly has been as the elder of the family, the carrier of all that goes with that, and the person who had to organize everything around that, whilst it also hit so deeply, and there's no bypassing that either. You know, you cannot bypass grief and you cannot bypass loss. What you can do is make sure that you work through these times by not making a pain body out of that and attaching it to your egoic identity. You become aware of your ego and your identity, therefore it doesn't have the same sort of power over you. So that's where I've been, and as you can see, I've put a stone of grief weight on, and I was thinking, well, maybe, you know, over the next little while we'll just have some videos where we talk about these things very, very honestly, and maybe we can kind of work along together to take some of our grief weight down and things like that. But let me stop here. Let me share Sarah's little video with you, where the question about the teachers of hair care are, and what she feels about them, and then I'll follow it up with this excerpt, this sort of 10-15 minute excerpt from the most recent open space satsang, and I'll probably post this on Substack, maybe as a podcast, and on YouTube. So this is likely to cause a number of you to unfollow from various places. That's absolutely fine. All one can do is to hold the question up. Not necessarily to be an answer, but because we're afraid of questions, we cling to these false spaces. So here's Sarah, then the satsang video, and my love and kindness to you this day.
All those spiritual people claiming their light and love, praising light and love, and staying neutral in the face of a genocide. I mean, is it upsetting? Yes. They're just colonizators, and they're just putting the population even more asleep. These things are raising Earth vibration. I think as if Earth needs them to raise our vibration. Of course. I mean, I think it's like completely ridiculous. I think they are narcissistic people, and they have completely lost their empathy and their humanity. And I blame them also a lot. Yes, my heart is doing like that because it's like anger. Yes, of course, sadness, of course. I mean, how can you preach love and light and not see the suffering of people that are on Earth right now, completely detaching yourself from it? I mean, come on. No, you are not a being of love. You are not a being of light. No, you are just a selfish being locked into your little golden bubble.
What I will say, reflecting on this, is that you do know people by their actions. what's the saying? Actions speak louder than words. And it's not that one should perform actions that others think you should, you know, i.e. being seen on protests or doing this, that or the other, whatever seems to be the thing to do. Very often energies run away with people, and we go for what we think we're supposed to do, not realizing that this is what we've been trained to do. We've been trained to be reasonable. We've been trained to be responsible. We've been trained to be, you know, quiet. You know, and you look at that when a friend came round last night, we were talking about how when the French farmers are protesting at the minute, and they've just been pouring loads of manure into bank lobbies, you know, they're much more, you know, close to life in that way, I suppose. And but we've been trained to be afraid of doing things in a way that kind of goes out of the groove, that that then will kind of, you know, lose us in people's eyes. And I feel that this is exactly that, you know, with the teachers, as it were, that we have self-trained, or they have self-trained themselves into compliance. And we really need to be thinking and understanding, not thinking, but if you sit with this true energy of life, you know, it's a different moral landscape, because it's not coming from thought, and it's not an obedient energy. It seeks life, and it preserves life, and it wants to go to life and love, and it is not for bypassing. It's like trying to negotiate with electricity, you know, while holding bare wires. And so yours truly, at least anyway, experiences that I have no choice. When it moves and says, you're doing this now, that's what I have to do. And, you know, I was told very clearly, we're coming up to the 9th year since the instruction was given as clearly as it was given to teach and so on. And there's just literally no way. It doesn't matter about how many people are there. It's that we just turn up, you know. So on the one hand, I think it's the training. On the other hand, I think it's a moral failure. And watch what happens when this is finally over, whatever that is, when more people are dead, when more things are torn apart, when things are irreparable in so many ways on both the human and the traumatic and grieving level, creating deep, wounding vasana for everyone, for those warred upon and those warring. You know, I'm not saying I am interested in everybody's soul here, and I make that abundantly clear. But I can't condone being interested in your soul. Doesn't mean I'm going to let you hurt somebody, you know. If I can somehow get in the way or intervene, then that's what we do, you know. That's maybe the Irish side of me coming up or something like that, I don't know. It's always been like this, so it's somehow in the blood. But watch what happens when a suitable amount of time has passed, how they will be then moral and talk about things. And morals are easy to talk about after everybody's dead. It's very easy to say the right thing later, you know. There's no risk anymore. And so time will pass until there's no more risk. And then they will claim to have been doing things all along, you know. I guarantee it. And that will be politically, spiritually, and so on and so on and so on. I'm interested, as I say, in everybody's soul, including the teachers, those who visit war and difficulty and supremacist-based structures upon people, and those on the receiving end of that. And I'm also mostly interested in the movement to awakening for people, so that by consequence that violence of the world decreases. So for each person who awakens more to the truth of who they are, to the what is, to the absolutely natural state, it's not really, inside is not the right word, that it is throughout all things and beyond time at the same time, that it's just now, now fixes it as a time where that's not even true, as it were. So it's beholden on us as practitioners, or within the practitioner realm. And if you're a teacher, you're still a practitioner, and you still have to deal with your human karmas and your human stuff and your path. Then it's beholden on us to wake the heck up and to get home, and to remove our energy at the very least, to divest these systems as much as possible of our energy, and then also our entanglements, financial and vocal, and so on and so on and so on. We withdraw from that, the more that the clarity of what is shines out in us. And then the third thing around the teachers, and I'm sparing no stuff today, I'm afraid, is that you also have to remember, it's not everybody, okay, but there's a lot of this out there. What they're teaching is stolen. It's still colonialism. It's still that global North supremacist model. So that has now moved from, well, not quite, has it? You know, taking land from under people and taking the mineral wealth and giving themselves space, to plundering the Eastern religions or other religions of the world, and taking, you know, those teachings because they're nice and exotic looking, appending them to oneself, throwing away the spiritual core of them, turning them into things like mindfulness, turning them into things like, you know, exercise only yoga, wine and yoga, dog yoga, naked yoga, goat yoga. Although naked yoga I really do like, I have to say. But personally, you know, when I do my practice at home in the morning, but you don't need that image. So a lot of what is going on around the world, these spiritual retreats and so on, they're basically colonialism, you know? And so and again, it's missing the mark. It's not following the path of your own dharma. It's not that they're bad people necessarily. It's just that they have learned to steal everything instead of finding out for themselves. It's to miss the mark. It's to not practice the dharma. It's to not follow the path. And so it fits that supremacist model, you know, it really does. And so one would have to admit that to oneself in order to kind of, you know, make amends and actually do the work. But we want to be seen for having more than we have a lot of the time, and we want to be seen to have the latest goodies. So, you know, it's gone from yoga in the 70s to everything being, you know, for 30, 40 years or so of that stuff, the kind of all the different yogas that came out, the different meditation practices, you know, mantra, anything that can be sucked up and stripped down and capitalized upon is kind of used. And then there's an entire industry built around that worth, I'm trying to remember the last figures I saw, which is probably a few years ago, but you know, the basic yoga industry was sort of $10 billion a year. That was about 5 years ago. So there's a lot of that kind of investment in it as well, and then reputation and so on, built on stolen things. So you have to consider that too. And so the way out for these people and for anyone is to actually practice. That's all that need be done. And then it will all clean itself up. But we have to be prepared to let go of the acquisitions we have. And that's not enough. We need to also make amends, because without that, there can't be any actual movement, you know? You cannot wake up and not clean up your act around you. You can't just say, oh, I'm done with that now. And then everybody still has, it's still bleeding and destroyed from what has been done for such a long time. A very famous Malcolm X quote is that if you stab me in the back with a blade that's 9 inches long and then pull out the blade 6 inches and say, you're sorry, that really, you've still killed me, And so, yeah, so I think the teachers generally are kind of in a mire of all this stuff. And what we need is true practice. And trying to kind of hedge your bets and play the game and not actually speak for life. There's not wanting to lose what they've built. And so, which is, how people see them, and the money in the pocket, always the money. And then the structures that are kind of grown up around them. Whereas, as we're saying, these videos that we started doing earlier in the year, my own approach is burn it down. Burn down anything that's false. It doesn't even need you to burn it down. That if you practice for true, then it just doesn't mean anything, Those things don't mean anything at all. They're okay structurally. They fit within the mandala that we've been talking about, but it doesn't matter what we call it anymore. It doesn't matter whether we have reputation or not. But we're still in the realm of building fiefdoms. This is what's changing, I think. This is the big change that's coming. But do be careful when these people come back and start claiming moral high ground and so on. No need to hate on them, but just let them go if that's what you feel like you want to do, Well, welcome back. And I want to just read this little passage from the Gita from you. And while I was actually looking at this is from chapter 2 of the Gita, I was also thinking that if Jesus was around right now, during his ministry, during his age 30 to 33, what would he be saying about this time? What do you think? This is what the Gita says. Considering your dharma, you should not vacillate. For a warrior, nothing is higher than a war against evil. The warrior confronted with such a war should be pleased, Arjun, for it comes as an open gate to heaven. But if you do not participate in this battle against evil, you will incur sin, violating your dharma and your honor. The story of your dishonor will be repeated endlessly, and for a man of honor, dishonor is worse than death. These brave warriors will think you have withdrawn from battle out of fear, and those who formerly esteemed you will treat you with disrespect. Your enemies will ridicule your strength and say things that should not be said. What could be more painful than this? Thank you for listening to these hair care tips. As I say, we'll have more hair care videos soon. My love to you this day, and yeah, see you really soon.